you got two paradigms. You got this old guy who has raised 5 children and has 21 grandchildren, and with all of his failings, he actually did do that. Do you want to be like him? Do you want to be like him? Do you want to be like him? Or do you want to be this wanker who just starts screaming at you?
You know that, like, back in the good old days, we would just hit each other with rocks, right? And I guarantee you I can lift a bigger one than you.
He would invariably stop, interrupt you, and say, well, what do you mean by that? Guys perfected this tactic of basically
the sneaky debate tactic of asking clarifying questions when a person's best argument against you is that you have a darkened mind and therefore cannot perceive his ideas.
If there ever proof that lust darkens the mind, it's Vaush and the way he performed during that debate.
Shut up.
Top to bottom. It was created by a Jewish professor at Harvard called Noel Ignatius.
Right away. Literally the first thing that I clicked to. Right away. This guy. Literally right away. Instantly. Immediately. There's nothing for me to show you guys. It's a podcast. I was just curious, so I just want to hear it.
I'm waiting for the ADL to condemn Youngkin for anti-Semitism because he stopped critical race theory.
Yeah, the same way that if you go after pornography, you're an anti-Semite, which leads us to our other topic. You had this debate a couple of weeks ago, I guess, with this character Vaush, which I didn't know existed until I tuned in for the debate. It's an interesting debate. It's almost as if you were debating someone who has completely no understanding of your position, or at least how anyone could ever be critical of pornography. It's almost like Vaush has sort of this Whiggish view of history. It's all progressive, right? And to be transgressive is progressive and good. You can transgress against everything, and that's the important point. But I'll let you talk.
We're not watching. There's something to watch.
I don't want to be uncharitable, but it's almost like just looking at Vaush was an argument against pornography.
I think that's what happened here. I think basically,
wait, is that a compliment? Like, if you've got guys looking like me wandering around, you don't need pornography? I don't even understand what that means. That was a diss? Obviously, they meant it as a diss. I'm trying to understand. Do I look like a person who jerks off a lot? Because I do. My dick is a muscle. I give it a lot of work, you know? I stay fit. Thank you. Also, keep in mind, what was the name of the guy I debated again? Michael Jones? This guy does actually look like a goblin. If this is what accumulating prodigious semen and never releasing it. Here we go. This is the only photo I can find of him. We're just going to have this guy up. This actually makes him look a lot better than he did in the video. I don't know if anyone has like a screenshot or like a link or whatever, but because okay, here we go. This is from Goodreads, okay? Because he almost looks likable here. Here we go. This is more how I remember him. Sort of kind of a necrophage vibe.
All I have to do is kind of show up and say, look, this is what I believe. So you got two paradigms. You got this old guy who has raised 5 children and has 21 grandchildren, and with all of his failings, he actually did do that. And do you want to be like him, or do you want to be this wanker who just starts screaming at you when you try to make a point? The interesting thing about that debate was at the beginning you make a statement, and then as soon as you go into the back and forth, he would invariably stop, interrupt you, and say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, what do you mean by that? And so the point here is these guys perfected this tactic of basically trying to trip you up, and then you get frustrated because you can't make your point, and then you're supposed to get angry, and you're supposed to shout at him or something like that. Well, it turns out the exact opposite happened.
The sneaky debate tactic of asking clarifying questions when a person's best argument against you is that you have a darkened mind and therefore cannot perceive his ideas. That literally, again, he didn't explain shit. He was just like, okay, well, some things are good and some things are bad, and your mind is broken, so you don't know. So it's like, okay, oh, I have to ask some questions to know what the we're going on about.
So the middle part is kind of unpleasant because he's constantly
Nazi John Kerry,
making it very difficult to make the point. But then the third part is all you're doing is answering questions from the audience. And the questions were obviously not going his way. And so he's getting more and more angry because I don't have to say anything anymore. The floor is yours.
I love
Vaush.
the
Every
Q&A
time someone
section.
calls in, you have to answer the question, and he's getting more and more angry. So one point, I'm just not saying anything. At one point, he says to me, he goes into this tirade about me as an old man, and he's big and strong, and he could knock me out and everything. And then at the end of it, he says, "Shut the fuck up." Well, wait
And he did.
a minute. We're supposed to have a debate here. What kind of attitude is that when you're having a debate? Because the more you allowed him to speak, the more it became obvious.
Okay, for those who weren't there for that debate, he was saying that porn is bad, masturbation is bad because it's not natural, and of course masturbating is natural. Like even animal species do it, but like whatever, it doesn't matter, you know. So it was like it's the naturalistic fallacy. Things that are natural are better. So you know he's like super old. He'd probably be dead if he was out in the woods. I told him that if things were in their natural setting, that I would just beat him to death with a rock. And I told him to shut up, and he did. You know what else is a violation of the natural order? The concept of debate. Jones, do you want to just put him up sometime? We can go boxing. I can pulverize your skeleton. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what was adherence to the national order? You know that, like, back in the good old days, we would just hit each other with rocks, right? And I guarantee you I can lift a bigger one than you. This deference, and it's always the weakest people who defer to it, by the way. The only reason that you weren't cast out from the tribe and left to be eaten by wolves for your degenerate anti-Semitism is because modern civilization coddles you like the infant that you are.
That lust darkens the mind. And you don't have a position. Your position is basically a constricted justification for pornography and masturbation, trying to relate that to people who are part of as addicted as you are and don't feel good about it.
Use modern language. Coomers.
Yeah, he didn't seem to be aware, or at least anyway, of your argument about pornography or sexual liberation as a tool, psychological weapon for political control. And he didn't seem to be too concerned or interested in the history, which I think is important understanding its effect and also its power. And he was bored with Hollywood, and he didn't think that factored into it. He didn't think Hollywood produced pornography. I was like, what are you talking about? They've normalized it. That's why maybe you don't recognize it.
When they say Hollywood, they mean the Jews here, by the way. This guy's explicitly a neo-Nazi. When he says Hollywood, he means the Jews. So it's the same group to him.
But he's been completely. He's like I said, his own appearance, how he talked, is an argument against pornography. I can understand he was making the case that pornography is something like is an evil that must be tolerated.
Can I get wait? Who's the other guy here? Who's the other Tim Kelly? Can I get like a picture of this guy? If this guy looks like a Giga Chad, I'm gonna get blown the fuck out here. But I really want to know. Oh, tell me it's not this guy. This guy, he's listed for the National Catholic Reporter, which seems like the kind of thing these guys would do. I'm pretty sure Michael Jones is also a Catholic. Wait, here's a panel for them. Is there a photo here? Oh, shit. Okay, I think it might be this guy, because this guy, in his non-photographed appearances, uses an old medieval image, like a painting of Christ, and this photo is taken from the National Catholic Reporter. It seems like there might be a bit of a parallel there, I guess, but yeah, here we go. There we go. My money is on it being this guy. That's my guess. That's just a guess that I have. I don't know. I can only guess here. Not all of us are brave enough to put our faces out there on the internet when we want to share our opinions.
Given other concerns like free speech, if that's your understanding of the First Amendment, but he was like, it was a positive good. It helps people. It
helps you nut.
And it was almost like a complete sort of this obtuse or detached from reality, meaning that you can. His idea is you could be addicted to pornography, addicted to masturbation, have a perfectly healthy relationship, and have children. Well, people who know the reality of this, that isn't the case. In fact, that's why it's promoted.
I think they literally think that if you because I don't know if this guy. Oh wait, this guy ever understood, but I think he actually thinks that if you masturbate, you can't impregnate people. I never got over this with him. I kept trying to get him to understand that it's possible to masturbate to pornography, and then it's possible to then afterwards impregnate somebody, like at some time in the future. or even like right then, if you want to. But I don't think he got it. I don't know.
Promoted actually to prevent people from forming families and having large families, having children, having community. It's there to atomize you. And he's a perfect example of someone who's atomized. I mean, it's
well, it's not. He's a whole generation has been atomized, marginalized. You know, for two things. You know, basically pornography, masturbation, and student loan debt. It's a catastrophe for that generation.
What a mixed
and as
bag.
As you say something like debt, then we go down that rabbit hole.
What a weird 1-2 punch. Okay, the only reason he doesn't like student debt is because debt is usury and usury is Jews. That the rabbit hole he's referring to here is Jews.
And it's just constantly trying to avoid the issue, but at the same time making the issue obvious by your behavior. It's obvious. It's obvious that there's something wrong here. And that you can't
your
come
superior
up with a coherent
rock
explanation.
beating to death
when
power.
some guy calls in and says, "Yeah, I was addicted, and I'm glad I broke the habit," you yell at him. That's the wrong answer.
Right? Did I? I thought I said that people can be addicted to porn, and that if they got over that, that's good. That's what I thought.
You know, and who cares about you, and so on and so forth. That's
not evidence. You see, that's not social.
Oh, I said who cares about you to the guy who said that the fact that he had a bad experience with pornography means that the state should crack down on all pornography and ban all of it and make it illegal to produce or to look at it. Actually, yes, in that case, it is true. I do not care about you.
Sociological evidence. That's not
right.
data.
There's a scientific study that must be.
Well, that goes back to the idea of science, right? It goes back to he's almost like an apostle of Kinsey. He's calling it science, right?
Right. I mean, now that we're on this, we started off by talking about those 180 priests who announced that they're homosexuals. I'm saying there's a direct line between that and the pornography battle in Germany. What? A direct line.
By the way, he was completely unaware of that, by the way.
No, he's unaware of everything.
Yeah,
he was, I think, taken aback when I started talking about the Palestinians and Ramallah and that type.
What? Did he even mention priests coming out as gay? I don't even remember that part of the conversation.
The thing. Didn't know what to say at that point. And so as soon as I started talking, that he would attack whatever I said.
Well, he said, well, the Weimar period in Germany was great. So what?
What?
It's like the Germans didn't feel that way, and you know there was a reaction to that.
Yeah.
They're Nazis. See, to them, the fact that pornography was prominent in the Weimar Republic is evidence that what Hitler did was right.
It was called Hitler. Yeah.
Oh well, okay, there we go. Yeah, thank you.
But he said, he didn't. I don't know if he's even aware of. Like the transgender sex experimentation that was going on and all that. And,
yeah, it was based, man. The Weimar Republic was pretty progressive back in its day.
But
Berlin, at least.
No, he didn't know anything. He didn't know anything. He was okay, you're 27 years old, and it took me a while. When I was 27, I didn't know what I know now. But if you're going to constantly hector someone who knows more than you do, just to make a point, the only point you make is that you're an ignoramus.
Still mad.
He looked like he was 40.
Well, you were 27 at the time. Yeah, now he's wrong.
Maybe when I was 27, at least I was aware that pornography was wrong, and I wouldn't know all the arguments, but I was aware that these were just instinctually knew that these things were wrong. He was proud of it, and he even suggested that if someone isn't
instinctually
constantly masturbating, that they should masturbate more.
Dude, isn't that so sad? He's like, even back then, I was guilty when I jerked off to porn. I felt guilty. Damn, dude, that sucks.
Open their mind up. That was it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, look at him. There's an open mind. If there were ever proof that lust darkens the mind, it's Vaush and the way he performed during that debate.
He didn't understand. He didn't understand psychological warfare. It was almost like he was. If it's not, he sees it as liberating, right? And it's like
because your mind is darkened and you don't really understand what's going.
What he's referring to here is that I think it was like the Israelis played like sounds of women getting dicked on a loudspeaker to annoy Palestinians or something, and the conclusion he derived from this was that sex and porn are something authoritarian governments like because it allows them to suppress minorities, which is an excellent argument if you don't look at all of human history in the past 150 years, which is contradicted by like essentially all of human history for the past, like it's literally the direct opposite of the thing that is true.
going on. All you know is that you have to gratify your passions, and that's it. That's the end of the story. And you
Sure.
convince
Just don't
yourself
hurt
that you're
people.
happy as a slave, and try and convince other people. He's got people who follow him on the internet. This is ridiculous. He makes money by keeping these people, his own generation, enslaved to these vicious habits. That's really weird. But I mean, that's the situation. There's a direct line. I'm saying there's a direct line. The crisis in Germany came when basically Ratzinger and Krings were in Rome during the Second Vatican Council, and
it's always with the Jews with this guy. The Second Vatican Council, I'm pretty sure, was the one where they decided that the Jews weren't responsible for killing Jesus Christ and decided that Jews weren't all like mega evil people. It happened like the 1950s. The Second Vatican Council was them going like, hey, maybe we should stop being like literally Hitler. Vatican II, yeah.
Forces in Germany launched a very successful attack and overturned their obscenity laws. That enslaved the German people. They've never recovered. Never.
Well, I think in Vaush's worldview is that was an example of Germany being liberated, the Allies bringing freedom to them.
Yeah.
They have me on that one. I do think that when the Nazi regime was defeated, that did lead to an increase in freedom.
Because he gets into this idea, remember, anything that the Nazis are against was good, and anything that opposed Nazis, everything the Nazis were for was bad, and everything that anything that opposed Nazis were good. So it's a very simple, dialect or dichotomy there.
Right.
It's on an understanding of things. So basically,
he's so
Nazis
unreasonable.
Like pornography, therefore pornography is good. Okay, fine,
Right.
take that. But where was I going to get to? Oh yeah, he just didn't. When you talk about psychological warfare, an idea of managing or manufacturing consent, people can be manipulated. He had no appreciation of that. Have you ever read anything about Edward Bernays and manipulation?
I'm an anti-Vatican II Catholic.
Now, this isn't freedom.
Nazis
this is manipulation and the power of mass media and producing this stuff. Now, you've written about how really pornography didn't really become an issue until the advent of.
Hey, just taking a shot in the dark, but I have a strong feeling. How much of these guys' day-to-day lives do you think is filled with incredibly graphic fantasies of every woman around them who isn't covered in like burqa equivalent clothing? I have a feel like this has got to be some like 100% like mega brain rot, crazy internal violent shit or something. Holy shit. You get guys who are this far right being this pent up and having this conservative a set of ideas on like sexuality. Yeah, I gotta say. 1% when they're using the bathroom. Yeah, the 1% that they aren't doing that is when they're pooping. And even sometimes,
Of the motion picture, right? It was photography, but really it was the motion pictures that really gave it its power.
Because of Hollywood.
So technology is the force multiplier in all this.
Right.
Hey, Shu, we're listening to Nazis complain about me.
Obviously, there's no way really effectively to restrict it. I mean, even if you concede the fact that adults can handle it, as they say, how do you keep it out of the hands or out of the visions of children? You cannot do it. It's an impossibility. So we're faced with a situation now where the regime, the system under free speech and these things, is in the habit of grooming young children so they grow up to be homosexual, or grow up to be perverts,
Wait, okay, so there are a lot of problems with that logic there. Like, there are tons of things that exist in society that we shouldn't have kids do, but we need them anyway in society, like guns and cars and alcohol and a bunch of other stuff. But, it's just, there might be other ways of restricting child's access to those materials. But what I want to know is, how does looking at pornography turn you gay? Isn't most pornography straight pornography? How the f does that happen? I want to know the logic on that one. Like, if you're like a 12-year-old and you type in with your stupid snotty hands on your family computer, big booby big, like whatever will the Google search results make you gay? That's crazy. That's wild.
So
yeah, he's going to go down that road too. He defended and then got shouted down and tried to back away from that. But
that happened in the debate? I don't recall that part. He might have been thinking about
and I did want to discuss it on those terms. I really didn't want to talk about that because the issues are grave enough, and we tend to get jaded because we.
Oh, I wish he'd brought it up. I bet I could have made that dude sound like a pedo with like 6 questions. Okay, talking to trad cats on anything having to do with consent or age of consent it's so fucking easy to make them look terrible, okay? Because these people are so locked into like the traditional like trad wife mindset and they're so anti-sex education and consent, you can make them look fucking horrible because they are horrible. Don't get me wrong.
Tend to just go along with the barrage. We get desensitized because of all of the promotion, like it's homosexuality is the cutting edge, you know, and so we desensitized.
Dude, homosexuality is not cutting edge anymore. I'm sorry.
Or we should be talking about divorce. But those are battles that were fought so long ago, nobody talks about them anymore.
Contraception has no impact on birth because people can choose to have babies. That's how Vaush would look at it.
That's actually true, yeah. If you have sex and you're wearing a condom, you can then go, "Oh, I want to have a kid," and take off the condom with consent. Talk about it first. Yeah, yes. Some forms of contraception are more permanent, but contraception as a concept doesn't prevent you from having kids. Keep in mind, the reason they're anti-contraception, the reason Catholics and other like tradcon types tend to be anti-contraception is explicitly because they want to punish women for having lascivious sex. That's the reason why. It's not actually about having more kids, because you can have a ton of kids if you plan to just take the condom off. They just don't want women to be able to have sex freely without being punished for it by having to care for children. They want to be able to have more single mothers to shame, essentially. Or shotgun marriages.
Yes, it's all choice, and nobody can influence our choice. And there's a guy who's totally determined by what's outside of him, and he can't even see it. Can't even see it. I tried to.
Does anyone else think it's funny that he's claiming that I'm the person controlled by outside forces when he's explicitly arguing against freedom of choice and in favor of a government choosing for you? That's a little bit interesting. I don't know.
That's why I started with the issue of the Israelis broadcasting pornography in Ramallah. Do you think the Israelis did this to bring about freedom? Oh, he wouldn't answer it. He wouldn't answer it.
No. I answered that directly. This is like saying I don't know what to say. This is like you saying, "Hey, I think people should need water," and then he shows you videos of civil rights protesters having like firemen's hoses turned on them to push them back, and he's like, "Wow, you really think that water is good for people? Look at this." Bet you feel pretty stupid now, huh? Well, it's like, well, you know.
Change the subject.
He said that they're just trolling.
Wait, what? I engaged with it directly.
No psychological component to it. It's like,
and I never said they were trolling. Wait, what?
I mean, obviously, if you look at the writings of the authoritarian, something like, I don't know if he's familiar with the authoritarian personality, the works of Herbert Marcuse with Eros and Civilization, is obviously sex is being weaponized. And the authoritarian personality is pretty clear, is that they're going to promote Eros and sexual perversion to weaken the family. Because they want to weaken the family.
I love weakening the family,
particularly the family unit with the patriarchal strong father is a source of fascism. This sort of narcissistic, everything's about us, and we need to weaken society. We need to break it up, weaken it, and they do that to the promotion of pornography. And the worst thing about it is he's denying it, but Jews admit it. They openly admit that this is a strategy.
They brag about it. They brag about it.
Yeah. Or Abrams wrote a book about it.
Wait, hold on. Give me my Jew credit. I don't deny that. I explicitly want to weaken traditional family roles. And I do think the pornography goes a long way towards destabilizing pre-existing standard like courting rituals. Not courting rituals, like the process by which you find people and form a family and whatever. Yeah, I'll own up. I owned up to that. I owned up to that in the conversation. My Jewish mind is firing on all cylinders.
I think you quoted Abrams.
Yeah. I wrote. He took a lot of my material.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
article,
sorry. Yeah.
And then said, but what's wrong with that? It's good. The only difference between the two of our two perspectives is that he thinks it's good and I think it's bad.
Wait, so if I said that it's good, then how did I run away from it? Wait, you can't accuse me of denying something and then subsequently saying that it's that I owned up to the opposite position of you. I know there's no point to me responding to any of this. Both of these guys are brain damaged. You know, there's no point. It's just kind of fun, you know.
But we agree on the facts that Jews are heavily involved in the promotion of pornography. It's obvious.
Yeah, I do like the fact that in the interview you mentioned pornography and usury, and he immediately accuses you of being an anti-Semite.
Who
Who
could
do those
could
two
think
things have
that?
in common?
It's like, wait, where does this go? I mean, I guess you're willing to talk about it. I mean, but it's like, why would you immediately go to that? So basically,
Why don't they just own up to it? I like they're already banned and deplatformed off of everything. Well, anti-Semite. How are we anti-Semitic? We just think that the Hitler was right to purge Germany of the Jewish-led pornography. Yeah, like okay, just own up to it, dude.
and yet this was exposed. We've talked about this. How remember that No Nut November thing where Rolling Stone accused the people of promoting as being anti-Semitic because it basically defogged their mind. But they says if someone is not addicted to pornography, or watching pornography, or just sexual liberation, it will strengthen the character, clear their mind. They're going to start a family, and they recognize they have interests and all that.
Okay, again, for those who haven't seen the debate, this Nazi, thought that No Nut November was something people were doing to reject pornography, when what it really was for almost everyone was a month of edging. It's just a self-challenge to avoid coming for a month. It's something that Coomers do. It's a self-imposed challenge. What you're thinking of is the Nofap movement, which is an attempt at overcoming, fapping or pornography or whatever. But the No Nut November thing, dude, do you have any idea how many porn comics there are of No Nut November? Of like Fuda chicks with giant tits and huge cocks being like, all right, it's just 1 month. This can't be that hard. And then like 5 days in, and they like dick is spraying pre-cum everywhere. It's a porn thing. It's just a fucking Coomer porn thing. It's not anti-porn.
So they admit it, and I mean, you've talked about this.
Oh my God.
What Vaush is. I guess he thinks he's a leftist of some type, but he is a product of that Michel Foucault thing, right? Whether you abandon the economic claims and you embrace sexual liberation, and this is why the oligarchs
abandon the economic claims.
Right. It's kind of like the default setting right now. It's called libertarianism.
Mm-hmm.
The libertarianism swept through the homosexual crowd in San Francisco in the 70s and produced people like Robert Sirica, who basically deregulate everything. Deregulate. It's simple enough. Well, when you deregulate.
So this is just psychotic. The idea that the deregulatory movement came from gay people in San Francisco. Again, these guys are like actually brain damaged, but it's like whatever.
Everything. All you're doing is handing power to the oligarchs because they have wealth and power. You have to have something that will equalize their wealth and power, and that's going to be laws that are based on the moral law and say that certain behavior is impermissible and
always
certain
Jews.
People, certain things are inviolable, like the right to life. As soon as you break through that, you have oligarchic control. This is why abortion was so crucial. What you have if you can't say you have the right to life, you have no rights. Anything can be violated. The oligarchs can come up.
Well, you get the rights after you're born. That's when you become a citizen. That's when you're born.
With excuse and to do anything they want to you. That's the catch here. You go for the bait. You say, well, I just want to act out my sexual behavior. So I'm going to say, well, the moral law doesn't apply. Well, you think it doesn't apply just to that? If you say it doesn't apply, it doesn't apply across the board. And they use that against you as they start to exploit you.
Is anti-Semitism just being anti-capitalism, but you think capitalism is Jews? It's been said that anti-Semitism is the stupid man's anti-capitalism, but I don't even know how true that is, because this guy doesn't give a fuck about capitalism. He cares about Jews. Like, it's adopting adjacent talking points as a way of pushing the anti-Semitism. But like, if you could explain to this guy, like, hey, you can solve economic inequality, but you don't have to do any weird anti-Semite shit, he would never change his mind. He will never change his mind on the Jews. However, if this guy realized that he no longer needed to talk about class issues in relation to his hate quest for Jewish people, he would drop that in an instant. And you see this happening all the time. You can find out what people actually care about based on which subjects they will orient their talking points around, you know? Talking points change, but the core things they're defending often don't. And it very often with anti-Semitic groups, you know, the reasons they're anti-Semitic, or so they claim, are just an ever-shifting, incorporeal hodgepodge of different excuses. We're almost done.
Economically, you can't kick it away in one place and then use it in someplace else. That's why this is important. It's a seamless.
Well, these people make good villains in fiction. So what you're seeing right now is the reason why we have this image of the Nazis as like cold and efficient and ruthless. This is what the Nazis were actually like. The Nazi Party, its officials, its leaders, were idiots. They genuinely were. They were coked up, incompetent buffoons who were high as a kite 30% of the time and incapable of fielding like very basic levels of competence that you would expect from government. And their underlings were not much better, okay? The problem is this makes for a really bad villain because nobody wants to acknowledge the fact that evil can coexist with stupidity to this extent. They need to be made like some big, imposing, big, like bad. So we have this troubling habit of making them out to be way the more menacing. Well, they were menacing, but way the more perceptually competent that they actually are. This is the face of Nazism, folks, okay? And by the way, during the debate that I had with this guy, Nick Fuentes fans, Nick Fuentes was watching it and getting thousands of views. Nick Fuentes is one of the biggest neo-Nazi figures in like the modern West, and his fans love this guy, okay? This is what they like. This is what they like. This is the level of intelligence they operate on. That's it. This is what they have.
Garment, and it has to be treated as such. And there are certain things that have to be beyond economic exchange, and that's precisely what the libertarians are denying.
And it was, I think, it was Vaush at one point in the debate accused,
Vaush,
I guess what he called conservatives, of not, accepting responsibility for their actions. So I thought it was ironic because it's his gospel
he didn't
of
get
sexual liberation is this fantasy, which is not too surprising because I think he's from Hollywood, so he does actually believe in the Hollywood fantasy.
Right.
These things
He grew up as a privileged child of Hollywood.
Yeah, so
his real name is Ian Koczynski. His father is a big, heavily involved in special effects in Hollywood. So he has that kind of Hollywood Jewish mentality.
There you go.
Yeah,
whether he's Jewish or not.
Hyper reality is fantasy and these things, but the idea he's saying you have to accept responsibility for your action. But wait a second,
Wink.
Is the sex act is inherently a moral act. He doesn't think have any morality to these acts, but obviously if you're having sex, you can produce a child, and that child needs someone to take care of him. And
all right, this is boring now. Their arguments never rise above this thing is bad because I say it's bad, and my things are good because I say they're good, and if you disagree, it's because God has abandoned you. So, you know, it's pretty much all we're going to get. I do love being the center of their anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Listen, okay, I'm Jewish in spirit, all right? Listen, okay, I'm Schrodinger's Jew. I'm Jewish when it's very funny when I'm arguing with Nazis, okay? That's when I'm Jewish. In reality, of course, my actual family is Catholic going back. Funnily enough, if you go back far enough, my ancestors probably wouldn't have been that far off from those guys in terms of their religious and political opinions. My dad nearly became a preacher or whatever, for the Catholic Church, whatever their preacher is. Not a preacher, priest, just a priest. One of those. Little funsy onesie. Didn't Catholics used to get shit on by white supremacists? The Ku Klux Klan didn't like Catholics. They thought of America as a Protestant nation, but it's complicated. You know, for a period of time in America, Catholics were actually considered to be the relatively progressive group, being generally in favor of like pro-choice, being relatively socially progressive on racial issues. It was the Protestant evangelicals who, as they are today, back then were the bulwark of religious conservatism in America, but lately Catholicism has been taking more of a trad-cath role over here, so. Is that because they were more marginalized? I think that's because a lot of them were Italians and Irish weren't like treated as full white people when they first came over here, so they were marginalized along a few axes, and the relative social ostracization was a force that juxtaposed them against the relatively socially conservative Protestant groups that were leading some of the hate against them. Yeah, I think. Yes, traditional Catholicism, however, has been growing a bit louder in America in the past decade or two, which is funny because we currently have the most progressive pope by far, I think, in all of human history. But I think most Catholics, at least, I think tradcaths hate the pope, right? Modern tradcaths currently despise the pope, which I still don't understand, okay? The pope is like supposed to be chosen by God. I mean, I get they're elected by the cardinals, but their choices are supposed to be brought about through God's wisdom, who is supposed to speak pretty much directly to them. So I don't know how exactly you parse that out. Like, I don't know how you can pretend to be Catholic but hate the Pope. Like, do you think they're a fake Pope or something? I don't know. Yeah, that's the problem with religious thinking. I mean, there's not really much moral room to argue with the Pope if you're a Catholic. Yes, it's literally like a papal infallibility, yeah. Tradcasts are in denial over the Second Vatican Council, as we saw. Listen, okay, here's my position. Whenever you're arguing with Catholics, ask them if they agree with Vatican II and the current Pope, all right? If they say no, spend the rest of the debate calling them heretics, all right? Call them infidels. Sorry, you want to be Catholic, buddy? You don't get to argue against the Pope. Sorry. They're like, no, it's been corrupted by Western homo globo agenda. Nope, sorry, that's the word of God. He's being moved by the word of God. You're the one who doesn't hear him. Sorry. Just make fun of them. Their excommunication is pending. Yeah, them's the rules. I don't hear these arguments from Catholics, though. What arguments? The idea that they don't like the Pope, or the idea that people who don't like the Pope are like infidels or heretics? One thing is that the Pope is Latin American, so there's some racist background there. Listen, if you believe in divine command theory, which you have to if you're a Catholic, otherwise I don't know how else you parse all of that. But if you do, like, you can't argue against the Pope. You can't. It's the Pope. It's the Pope. There's no room for this. Oh well, the Pope did it doesn't matter what the Pope does. It's the Pope. You can't argue against that. You can cope all you want. It's the Pope. Can't cope about the Pope. Okay. Currently, Catholic Church can't afford to take a hard stand against tradcaths. They're losing worshippers in all traditionally Catholic countries. Yeah, no shit. But they might as well. The Pope is coming out with statements every month on how, like, actually you should be giving your transgender children hormone blockers, you know? I feel like they're already going to lose the tradcath votes there. Also, how funny would it be if we had, like, a bunch of fucking Catholic splits all over the world in the 21st century, man? It'll be like the whole Eastern Orthodox shit or the anti-Pope shit for a while. Like, all these more tradcathy countries break off and form their own. Listen, the goal is to create as many different sects of Catholicism as there are of Protestantism, okay? That's the goal, all right? We need to break them up. That's what we need, okay? We need that level. We need that level of division, okay? There are already 23 separate Catholic churches. They just all answer the Vatican. Yeah, okay, well, obviously, like, a break-off wouldn't, right? The anti-pope will be Polish, I'm 100% sure. That or Hungarian, right? Isn't Hungary like a super tradcathy country, or am I mistaken? Hungary is basically fascist now. Well, we know that fascists and tradcaths like to get along.